Jack never existed, Rose imagined him. When treasure hunter Brock Lovett's crew tells 101-year-old Rose they found no record of Jack, her response raises questions.
No, there wouldn't be, would there? And I've never spoken of him until now. He exists now, only in my memory.
Two historical errors in the film give the theory traction. Jack mentions ice fishing on Lake Wissota in Wisconsin, except Lake Wissota didn't exist in 1912 because it's a man-made lake created 5 years later in 1917. He also talks about riding the roller coaster at Santa Monica Pier, which wouldn't be built until 1916. These could be simple script mistakes, or they could suggest Rose's 101-year-old mind jumbled details from 84 years earlier. The biggest obstacle comes from all the other characters who interact with Jack independently of Rose. A poker game with Swedish passengers before he ever sees Rose gives him his ticket, and his friend Fabrizio shares a cabin with him throughout the voyage until a falling funnel crushes him to death. Molly Brown lends Jack her son's tuxedo and has multiple conversations with him at first-class dinner. Cal Hockley frames Jack for theft, chases him with a gun, and threatens him face-to-face. The nude drawing of Rose physically exists and gets recovered from the Titanic wreck in 1996, which pretty much ends the debate. James Cameron confirmed Jack Dawson was completely fabricated to supply drama for the film, though he never suggested Jack was Rose's hallucination. Leonardo DiCaprio thought Jack was boring at first because the character had no obvious problems to hide behind. Cameron refused to let DiCaprio add afflictions or trauma, insisting Jack needed to remain pure of heart. One critic summed it up, "There's no official evidence supporting it. Cameron's vision is set in stone." Daniel Plainview killed H.W.'s father. During the 1902 opening sequence of There Will Be Blood, a worker cradles his infant son while Daniel Plainview draws derrick plans nearby. As men haul buckets from the oil shaft, part of the derrick breaks and a wooden beam falls into the shaft, killing the father instantly. Daniel takes the orphaned baby on a train and feeds him milk mixed with alcohol. Years later, during the 1927 climax, Plainview tells the adult H.W. the truth.
"You're not my son. You're an orphan from a basket in the middle of the desert. And I took you for no other reason than I needed a sweet face to buy land."
Film critic Tony McKibben caught the contradiction. We know H.W. wasn't found in a basket, and that he adopted the boy after the boy's father died in the industrial accident that, strictly speaking, Plainview would have been responsible over. Believers in this theory point to Plainview's established violence, killing the fake Henry without hesitation, and murdering Eli Sunday with a bowling pin. His competition speech lays out his worldview.
I want no one else to succeed. I hate most people.
Academic analysis describes how Plainview perverts the sanctity of family by positioning it as a purely capitalistic symbol, melding family and industry until they serve the same function. Paul Thomas Anderson's interviews reference real mining accidents as source material and never hint at murder. He described the film's beginning as based on Edward Dohany's first oil discovery and joked about modeling Plainview partially on Count Dracula to make it feel like a horror film. Daniel Day-Lewis spent over a year developing the character without ever suggesting murder was part of the backstory, and the screenplay explicitly describes equipment failure with no suggestion of foul play. Travis Bickle dies in Taxi Driver and the end is a death fantasy. One specific filmmaking choice centers this theory: the surreal overhead camera shot immediately after the massacre. Martin Scorsese called it a priest's eye view shot of the bloodbath, and Roger Ebert described it as the final sacrifice of the mass, noting the camera appears to see through the ceiling. The production detail makes it even more striking because it took 3 months to cut through the condemned building's ceiling using chainsaws, all for 20 minutes of shooting. What follows feels dreamlike compared to the film's gritty realism up to that point. Travis survives multiple gunshot wounds and becomes a media hero for killing people, while Iris's parents send a thank you letter, even though Iris never expressed any desire to return home. Betsy suddenly shows admiration instead of disgust. Travis is back, driving his cab with his hair fully regrown, and he gets to reject Betsy in a complete reversal of their earlier dynamic. Scorsese acknowledged this interpretation on the Laserdisc commentary, stating he wanted to evoke the feeling of being in a limbo state between sleeping and waking. He deliberately added the final moment where Travis looks in the rearview mirror with a disturbed expression, accompanied by a harsh, strange note on the soundtrack. His stated goal was showing the timer in Travis starts to tick again, the bomb that's about to explode again. Screenwriter Paul Schrader gave the definitive answer. The epilogue is not a dream sequence, it's just the restarting of the movie. I've always felt that the last frame could be spliced to the first frame and the movie started all over again. Travis isn't cured and won't be a hero next time, Schrader confirmed. A 2024 interview had Schrader telling De Niro the character dies at the end of that movie or dies shortly thereafter, though he also acknowledged, a number of people have attributed the ending of Taxi Driver as a fantasy. It wasn't our intention, but it's a legitimate interpretation. Darth Vader secretly sabotaged the Empire to fulfill the prophecy. George Lucas confirmed Anakin remained the chosen one throughout the saga, telling Cute magazine, "The tale meanders and both the prediction and Qui-Gon are correct. Anakin is the chosen one, and he did bring peace at last with his own sacrifice. A Looper interview had Lucas clarifying further, the prophecy is that Anakin will bring balance to the Force and destroy the Sith. He becomes Darth Vader, Darth Vader does become the hero, Darth Vader does destroy the Sith, meaning himself and the Emperor. The theory that Vader consciously sabotaged the Empire from the beginning falls apart under scrutiny because Vader didn't know Luke existed until after A New Hope. Any prior actions couldn't have been part of a plan to help his son when he didn't know he had a son. During the Death Star trench run in A New Hope, Vader genuinely tried to destroy Luke and only sensed he was strong with the Force, finding firing on him unusually difficult for reasons he couldn't yet understand. Marvel Comics reveal Vader learned Luke was his son from Boba Fett rather than Palpatine and kept this knowledge secret, using Dr. Aphra and bounty hunters to fund a private search while secretly orchestrating an attack on an Imperial starship to obtain resources. These covert operations directly undermined Imperial resources, and in The Empire Strikes Back, Vader proposed turning Luke rather than killing him with an offer that suggests overthrowing Palpatine.
With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy.
The counter-evidence overwhelms the theory, though. Vader led the 501st Legion attack on the Jedi Temple and killed younglings, hunted surviving Jedi for 2 decades, and led the Inquisitorious Darkseid agents. Dave Filoni explained, when you deal with Vader, you have to remember that he really is Darth Vader. When he becomes Darth Vader, the good person is largely destroyed. What canon actually supports is that Vader harbored hatred for Palpatine and secretly planned to overthrow him. His conflict was genuine and ongoing, and the Force may have guided events toward prophecy fulfillment, but premeditated conscious sabotage from the beginning isn't supported by anything. 007 is a code name, not a person. 6 different actors have played Bond across 60-plus years, while the character remains roughly the same age in contemporary set films, which the codename theory attempts to explain. Supporters point to George Lazenby's line in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where, after saving Tracy, he says,
"This never happened to the other fella,"
with a fourth wall-breaking camera glance. They also note that M, Q, and Miss Moneypenny are confirmed codenames passed between individuals, so why not Bond? Tracy Bond's death collapses the theory under its weight. She married Lazenby's Bond in 1969 and was murdered by Blofeld, and this singular event gets referenced across multiple actors' films spanning decades. Roger Moore's Bond in 1977's The Spy Who Loved Me becomes visibly upset when asked about marriage, visits Teresa's grave dated 1969 in 1981's For Your Eyes Only, and Timothy Dalton's Bond in 1989's License to Kill is mentioned as having been married once, long ago. Pierce Brosnan's Bond in 1995's GoldenEye hears 006 ask about the ones he failed to protect. Skyfall delivered the definitive refutation in 2012, when Bond returns to his childhood home, called Skyfall, in the Scottish Highlands. His parents' gravestones appear on screen, Andrew Bond and Monique Delacroix Bond, confirming Bond is a family surname rather than a code name. The groundskeeper Kincaid recognizes him and calls him James, without any confusion. Spectre further debunks the theory by revealing Bond and Blofeld were raised together as half-brothers, making childhood connections impossible if different people used the name over the decades. Producer Michael G. Wilson explained the creative intent. He wanted to show a continuity of the Bond stories and show that he's still the same character, he's still going on, and he has a history. In On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Bond learns his family motto is,
"The world is not enough."
And 30 years later, in the 1999 film of the same name, Brosnan's Bond references it as his family motto, in a direct callback that only works if they're the same person. Black Panther secretly agrees with Killmonger. Whether Black Panther agrees with Killmonger's ideology isn't up for debate because it explicitly does, and the real question is whether the film goes further by presenting him as the true Black Panther in moral terms. Director Ryan Coogler described Killmonger as a villain with really altruistic ideas, and stated, "One of the main questions of the film is, am I my brother's keeper? And for Wakanda, that answer has always been nah." Eric's confrontation makes T'Challa a better king. The film's ending proves Killmonger's vision wins outright. T'Challa's UN speech directly echoes Killmonger's arguments.
Wakanda will no longer watch from the shadows, but in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers.
Opening an educational outreach center in Oakland, the exact neighborhood where Killmonger grew up abandoned, T'Challa directly fulfills N'Jobu's original vision for helping the African diaspora. The museum scene establishes Killmonger's moral authority when he confronts the curator.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
The Igbo mask he takes foreshadows his final request, which references the Igbo landing of 1803, when captured Africans committed mass suicide rather than face enslavement. Chadwick Boseman himself created Killmonger's most powerful line, changing the original drafts that had Killmonger asking to be buried in Wakanda. Boseman's version:
"Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships, because they knew death was better than bondage."
Michael B. Jordan explained both T'Challa and Killmonger cared about their people so much, they were willing to do anything to protect them. They just had two different points of views on it. Coogler's distinction matters here. While they both want to empower people across the world, Nakia's reasons are altruistic, while Killmonger's comes from a place of betrayal and pride. T'Challa adopts Killmonger's ideology of helping the diaspora, but rejects his methods of violent revolution. Pennywise is a cosmic parasite. King describes it as an ancient, transdimensional malevolent entity that originated in a void containing and surrounding the universe, billions of years old, and having landed on Earth in a cataclysmic event millions of years ago, near what would become Derry. The Deadlights are, its true form, described as writhing, radiant orange lights, and a mysterious but very deadly and terrifying eldritch form of energy that originated from the preternatural realm known as the Macroverse. The novel states explicitly, it and the Deadlights are one and the same. A mere glance into the Deadlights causes instant death or permanent insanity, which explains why it needs a physical form to interact with its victims. Macroverse mythology connects to King's larger Dark Tower series as a void-like space outside the known universe. Maturin the Turtle, one of the 12 Guardians of the Beams, created the mainstream universe by vomiting it out during a stomachache, according to the creation myth. During the ritual of Chud, Maturin advises Bill and reveals that it was ultimately afraid of Bill, human potential, and of the turtle himself, and it later tells Bill that Maturin choked to death on a galaxy or two. Director Andy Muschietti deliberately minimized this mythology. I personally was never too interested in the cosmic mythology of it. I am somehow more interested in what this monster means to the kids. Maturin the Turtle got reduced to Easter eggs like a Lego turtle and stickers rather than appearing as a fantastic character, though it's hinted every time the kids are in danger. Bill Skarsgård understood his role. Obviously, it's an extremely abstract character because the character is an entity taking the shape of a clown. He's not a man, he's a thing, he's a creature, an entity. The films kept the Deadlights, extraterrestrial origin, 27-year cycle, fear-based feeding, and shape-shifting while cutting or minimizing the explicit cosmic mythology. John Wick is already dead and the franchise is purgatory. Chad Stahelski didn't hint at mythological underpinnings but explicitly confirmed them, revealing his design of the Continental was directly inspired by Olympus, with Winston as Zeus and the Bowery King as Apollo. He stated, "The name Charon also is the name of the ferryman of the underworld." We've always seen John Wick as Odysseus. Being a huge Greek mythology fan, that's what I grew up reading, informed his entire approach to the franchise. Chapter 4 opens with the Bowery King reciting Dante's Inferno.
I am the way into the city of woe. I am the way into eternal pain. Abandon all hope, you who are about to enter here.
Chapter 3 has earnest reading from Dante.
Consider your origins. You were not made to live as brutes, but to follow virtue and knowledge. Dante.
The franchise doesn't hide its mythological framework but announces it directly on screen. The Continental's coin-based economy operates on symbolic rather than monetary value, and Per Barada in Chapter 3 explains coins represent the commerce of relationships, a social contract in which you agree to partake. Stahelski clarified, a coin can be worth a drink to somebody important. It can be worth a firearm, a haircut, a new suit, or it can be worth one life. In Greek mythology, Charon the ferryman requires a coin for passage to the underworld, making the parallel impossible to miss. The franchise's unreality is intentional and acknowledged. Massive firefights occur at the Arc de Triomphe and Grand Central Station with no police response, and Stahelski addressed this directly. We know how ridiculous killing 80 guys over a puppy is. Believe me, we know. When you read a critic saying, well, that's not real, and John Wick would never survive. Dude, neither would Bugs Bunny. Characters refer to Wick as myth and legend, with Viggo calling him,
he was the one you sent to kill the fucking boogeyman.
And others calling him Baba Yaga, a Russian folklore witch who lives in this world and the next. Eli was blind the entire time. The film's ending essentially confirms this theory through the Braille Bible reveal and Eli's clouded-over eyes with cataracts visible on screen at Alcatraz. Carnegie opens the book and discovers it's written in Braille after spending the entire film pursuing it, and the twist recontextualizes everything viewers witnessed throughout the journey. Evidence was embedded from the opening scenes. Eli constantly wears sunglasses in daylight but doesn't put them on immediately when walking outside, and at the beginning he looks at the sun from a window but his pupils don't constrict from the light. Tracking enemies by sound becomes particularly evident when he goes under a dark tunnel during the opening ambush to level the playing field with sound-based combat. The bar fight starts when Eli accidentally knocks into a cat with his hand reaching for a drink because he couldn't hear the cat prowl across the bar. Eli avoided making direct eye contact with people and seemed to miss that Solara came to seduce him because he couldn't see her suggestive posturing. A stair-kicking technique helped him locate steps, and he searched shelves by running his hand over them rather than looking. Just before finding doors hiding a dead body, he runs into an end table with his thigh, and when George asks,
"No trespassing. Haven't you read the sign?"
I'm very sorry I didn't see it.
In a line that plays differently on rewatch, Denzel Washington researched Ben Underwood, a kid who had no eyes but developed echolocation by making clicking sounds, and Washington confirmed, there's this whole issue, without giving it away, is he blind, is he not? In a couple of scenes, I bumped and tripped over stuff, and they kept it in there. Screenwriter Gary Whitta originally intended Washington to have visually blind eyes, wearing sunglasses to hide them for the entire film, but Washington refused and preferred playing the character as blind with his own brand of subtlety. When Whitta asked if he was sure he could pull that off, Washington just looked at me as if to say, "Bitch, please." Whitta's view connects the blindness to the film's religious themes. When you see what the book is, and that he's blind, to me that tells you God must exist. If not, then there's no other explanation for how he's been able to do all that he did. The briefcase contains Marcellus Wallace's soul. Quentin Tarantino designed cinema's most famous MacGuffin mystery, deliberately, telling Radio 1 in 2019. Unfortunately, the whole idea, while I didn't tell people what was in the suitcase, was so they would come up with it on their own, but nobody wants to do that. They just want to know what I think. And I don't give a damn what I think. I want to know what other people think. The soul theory hinges on several details that fans assembled over the years. The briefcase lock code is verified as 666, and characters' reactions suggest something supernatural when Vincent appears to have a spiritual experience while opening it, his face illuminated by golden glow, while Pumpkin describes the contents as "It's beautiful" and appears mesmerized. The theory claims the band-aid on Marcellus Wallace's neck covers the spot where the devil extracted his soul. That band-aid explanation is completely mundane, because actor Ving Rhames cut himself shaving his head before filming, and the band-aid covered the wound. Tarantino liked the visual and kept it, making it not an intentional story element. Multiple sources confirm no biblical text states souls are extracted from the back of the neck, so this mythology has no verified religious source to support it. Co-writer Roger Avery revealed the production's actual decisions. Originally, the briefcase contained diamonds, but that just seemed too boring and predictable. So, it was decided that the contents of the briefcase were never to be seen. Then somebody had the bright idea, which I think was a mistake, of putting an orange light bulb in there. Suddenly, what could have been anything became anything supernatural. Avery expressed regret about the light bulb pushing interpretation toward the supernatural rather than leaving it completely open. Samuel L. Jackson confirmed what was actually inside. When I looked inside, between scenes, I saw 2 lights and some batteries. That's literally the prop mechanism, an orange light bulb, batteries, and switch mechanism. The briefcase pays homage to Kiss Me Deadly from 1955, which features a glowing mysterious box called the Great What's-It connected to the gates of hell, though Tarantino claimed the similarity was purely accidental rather than intentional homage. If you enjoyed this deep dive video about these characters, you're going to love the one on your screen, so go check it out now.